The Ukrainian Military Intelligence Agency just released over 15 minutes of the craziest combat footage I have ever seen. The footage shows Ukrainian special forces raiding multiple Russian-controlled oil rigs out in the Black Sea. I'm telling you guys, this footage is straight out of a Call of Duty mission. Not only is there official footage from the Ukrainian intelligence community, but I also found some unedited footage leaked by one of the Ukrainian special operators who was on the mission. But while we're on the subject of World War III, let me tell you about today's video sponsor, Conflict of Nations. Conflict of Nations is a free-to-play military strategy game where you get to choose a real country and lead in modern global warfare against up to 128 other real players. And these battles are so massive that they can take weeks to complete, which blows my mind. You can take control of a variety of different units, everything from tanks to infantry to aircraft, and even nuclear submarines if that's your thing. You'll need to use real military strategies to ensure victory against your enemies, and you'll make plenty of enemies along the way. You can choose to declare war on your friends or become powerful allies. The choice is yours. One of my favorite parts of Conflict of Nations is that it has shared progression across PC and mobile, which means if I'm traveling and away from my setup, I can continue playing the game on my phone. Big thank you to Conflict of Nations for sponsoring the video. We have a link down in the description below where you can get the game, and if you use that link, you will instantly receive a free gift of 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. But it's only good for 30 days, so get down there and claim your gift. Thank you again to Conflict of Nations. Let's get back to the video. September 2023, Ukrainian Special Forces began an incredibly dangerous 2-day-long raid on 2 separate Russian-controlled oil rigs located in the northwest part of the Black Sea. The rigs, nicknamed the BODYCAM Towers, are 2 gas and oil drilling platforms, B312 and B319. The rigs were originally Ukrainian, but they were captured by Russia back in 2014, and Russia has used them to assert military control over Ukraine's southern coast since the beginning of the invasion. In 2022, the Russians equipped the platforms with electronic reconnaissance and combat equipment. This enabled the Russian military to monitor the surface, air, and underwater space in the northwestern part of the sea. They also stored fuel and ammunition for helicopters so they could use them as helicopter refueling stations when needed. The rigs were also equipped with a type of radar tower which significantly increased the range of Russian drones in the area. If Ukraine could retake the platforms, they could serve as forward deployment bases, helicopter landing sites, and a perfect place to position long-range missile systems. And most importantly, they would no longer be in Russian control. And so, the Ukrainian Special Operations community got to work on a game plan to retake the rigs. The plan was to use rigid-hull inflatable boats to reach the platforms. The operators would then maneuver the boats underneath the rigs and use ladders to climb up. And despite the armed hostile forces on the rigs, climbing the ladders would prove to be the most dangerous part of the mission. When the day finally came to put this plan into action, the weather was stormy and the water was much rougher than they had anticipated. Once they were under the platforms, the team had a very difficult time keeping the boats steady. So the operators had to climb the long ladder with the boat moving beneath them and waves crashing into them. In the chaos, one of the operators was knocked overboard by a large wave, disappearing into the dark water. With multiple operators still on the ladder and the boat crews in a very bad, unsafe position underneath the oil rigs, they had no choice but to continue on with the mission and leave the man in the water behind. Fortunately for the operators climbing onto the oil rigs, there were very few armed enemy soldiers on board. However, the rigs were absolutely massive and built like a literal maze, so it took a very long time for the teams to get inside and fully clear the structure. Meanwhile, the men on the boats had a big problem of their own. As you can see in the footage, a Russian Su-30 fighter jet came out of nowhere and started engaging the Ukrainian boats. The boat crews frantically tried to defend themselves from the jet for several minutes.
Російський літак намагається уразити наші катери гарматним та ракетним вогнем. Наші бійці відкривають вогонь у відповідь з усього наявного озброєння.
Until one operator was able to lock onto the jet with a shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missile, forcing the jet to retreat. And while the boat crews were dealing with the fighter jet, the operators on the rigs were slowly and methodically clearing every nook and cranny of the rigs. They encountered multiple armed Russian soldiers who had barricaded themselves inside the rigs, but the operators were able to take care of them without suffering any casualties. And once the rigs were fully secured, the mission quickly changed from a direct action assault mission to a search and rescue to find the operator who fell off the ladder at the start of the mission. And after searching for 14 hours, the operator was spotted by a drone and rescued. Thankfully, operators wear personal flotation devices on these types of missions, and that's the only reason he survived 14 hours in rough waters. And honestly, guys, even with there being several thermal drones in the air looking for him, it is a miracle they found this dude alive. But overall, the mission was a huge success. The Ukrainians suffered no casualties, though there were certainly some close calls, and we don't know exactly how many Russian soldiers were eliminated during the raid. The official report says an undisclosed number of Russian soldiers were eliminated. But most importantly, Ukraine can and is using the platforms for military purposes, and Russia isn't. And if you guys want to see the raw, uncensored combat footage that was too graphic to show on YouTube, I'll have a link to my Patreon in the description below. And don't forget to check out Conflict of Nations, the free-to-play military strategy game where you can live out your World War III fantasies. If you click on the link in the description, you'll instantly receive your exclusive gift of 13,000 gold and 1 month premium subscription for free. But it's only available for the next 30 days, so get down there and claim that gift. Again, big thank you to Conflict of Nations for sponsoring the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.